Hello, and welcome to another MTV Solar podcast. My name is Mike McKechnie. I'm the owner and president of MTV Solar. We're a solar EPC company working in the Mid-Atlantic states, celebrating our 11th year officially. We've been working in solar for about 14 years, and we came from the general contracting trades, which we're still involved in. Solar is a general contracted trade. It's not anything different than that. So we service Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Maryland on a regular basis, and we'll travel out of the area, especially for battery opportunities and storage equations that need to be solved residentially, commercially, and a little bit on the entry level of the microgrid and larger storage equations that help with demand charges, demand mitigation, and those kinds of things. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about residential systems. There'll be some inferences to the commercial side, but we're going to try to keep this to residential. And we're going to be talking about solar with battery storage, how it works, how it functions. This is going to be an entry-level discussion, and we have a panel of folks here, our sales team and our engineers, to answer questions that we're going to get. And this will be about a half an hour episode, we think. We will follow this up with a more in-depth discussion. So what we're looking for is we have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, 150 battery systems behind the meter with solar in multiple states and every different kind of equation. What we want to know is, what is it that you would like to know next? So please send in your questions, and we'll put together another podcast. And we're shooting for one every 2 weeks. We know there's a lot of interest out there, and we want to fill that knowledge gap. As a long-time solar company on the East Coast, we now feel like it's important for us to get the information out to the world, and in a clear, concise manner from folks that are in the industry that work in this field every day. So with that, I'd like to open it up for the next part of the discussion.
Hi, I actually have a question. I have 24 panels on my roof, but we don't have batteries. I was a little naive at first and thought that if we had solar, we wouldn't need batteries, and then learned that although solar has net zeroed us and we don't pay an electric bill anymore, when the power goes out, it goes out. So now we're looking into batteries, and I'm hoping you can tell me if that will work with the solar that I have on my roof already.
Yeah, great question, Kiki. It absolutely will. There's ways that we can retrofit a battery system to meet your needs, whether that is for some critical loads in your home or even to do the whole house. Really, it just depends on what you want to power and for how long. And ultimately, that'll determine what kind of system design we go with for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, my question is, what are the benefits of adding batteries? If we're thinking about getting solar and also the battery option, what do the batteries offer to us in our home?
So the battery system is a perfect add-on to a solar array, where your solar generation will reduce your electric bill, allow you to net zero, provide you the knowledge of where your electricity is coming from. Solar doesn't work when the power's out. It's a safety function of the system. So a battery will provide reliability and peace of mind. So you know that if the power goes out, your system automatically switches over to run off your solar charged battery. Every battery system that we design is designed as a result of conversation and is customized to your home. Whether it's a critical loads, just a couple of things, water, refrigeration, lighting, etc., or a whole home that can include a heating system, a cooling system. It can be a whole home approach. So a battery is always customized to your home to provide what you're looking for within your budget. And in the background, if you're a business owner, then batteries can be used to mitigate demand charges, which can in many places make up the majority of your electric bill. The big thing is that batteries provide peace of mind, security, and every battery system we design is customized for your home or your business.
I actually wonder, we have a basement down here, but I'm a little bit hesitant to have batteries inside my house. Is that going to be okay? Are they safe to have in my house?
Absolutely, yeah. They are sealed batteries, so there are no off-gassing or anything like that. You don't have to have special ventilation or anything. They are very safe, and with the lithium battery specifically, they all have a battery management system that keeps the cells nice and happy. So with some of the news out there about lithium ion batteries exploding and things like that. These are not those same kind of batteries. These are managed batteries. The cells are happy and they're very safe.
Good, thank you.
What I want to know is, can I run my well pump, or what can I run on a backup system?
That's a great question, Stacy. It's probably the beginning conversation when somebody's first interested in batteries and storage is, what can I run? There's a list of things that they think they want to run when the power's off. There's a list of things they'd like to run, and obviously there's always a budget involved. So what we do, and Danny mentioned this earlier, is that each system is designed to fit your needs and your budget. Also, I want to say that battery systems are now expandable when you use lithium batteries. That's relatively new in the battery world. 5 years ago, we couldn't say that. You had to pick the battery you wanted and be happy with it for a long, long time. Now we can adjust and increase that. So solar, if you put solar on first, then you can add the batteries, then you can add more batteries, you can add more solar. Everything is now much more a la carte in the design process. So what we do is we look at what your end goal is. We talk you through that to make sure you're not forgetting some important things that you may not realize till later, because we have a really good idea of what people usually do and then what they grow into. So to answer your question specifically, what can you run? Like Danny mentioned, you can run everything. And right after I say that, everything's got a budget. So running your entire house, especially in America where we have larger houses, they're not efficient. There's very lax energy codes. The equipment in your house is builder's grade. You might have heard that word. What that means is less efficient. So you've got lots and lots of high energy loads. So everything can be run, but what we suggest is looking at what's the highest priority for you to run. So, and then what would you like to have if you can afford it? And then ultimately, where would you like to be in 3 to 5 years from now? So we look at that progression. Once we have the progression and we understand what your needs are, we can custom design the system and have you grow into it comfortably. Or if you decide, you can just write a check and do the entire thing at one time. And that happens. Everyone's conditions are different. Some have an urgency component to it. Other folks are looking for a convenience. So depending on where you fall there, it fits. So as a quick idea, the system behind me is a Schneider system, and these are inverters. Inverters are there, and charge controllers are there. So that system is the solar system I have at my house. I have solar panels on the roof, and I have solar panels on a ground mount. And it's taken me 4 years to get to this point. I started with a small system on the roof. I added a little bit more to the roof. I added some batteries, a small amount of batteries. Then I added a big ground mount. And my next step would be to add more batteries.
Now, I heard you mention, adding years later, or, a few years ago, you would buy something and be happy with it for years and years. How long do they last? What are we looking at when we're buying a system for how long those batteries will last and what kind of warranty they come with?
It's a good question. I'm going to start, but I'm going to have the rest of the team jump in. We know now we've been putting battery systems in for a little over 13 years. We've been established and working for over 11 years. So I know the lifespan of a Deca Unity solid state battery. By the way, all batteries are UL listed. They're safe as your toaster. Actually, they're probably safer than your toaster if you don't clean your toaster out, right? So they're very safe, and to get the UL listing in the United States is very, very difficult. So all the batteries, all the inverters, all the components carry the highest safety rating in the world, which is in the United States is the UL listing. The longevity of the batteries, I might defer and ask someone else in the team. What do we know about the different cell technologies, how long they'll last, and what the warranties are?
Mike, I'll jump in there. Just to expand upon your point, all of the batteries that we install at MTV Solar are UL listed. We're not importing batteries from overseas or from unknown sources. We're only installing the highest grade quality UL listed components. And as most people are aware, there are several different types of batteries out there in the marketplace. You have your lead acid batteries, your sealed lead acid batteries, you have your lithium batteries, and others that are on the marketplace. But generally today, most batteries come with a 10-year warranty.
Okay.
So they're rated and they're covered by the manufacturer over the course of 10 years. Now, depending on the battery chemistry, that might also come into other components in the warranty as well, as far as the amount of cycles or usage for the battery.
With all of that, should I get lithium or lead acid batteries?
Very good question. It really all depends on your application. And what you want to do with your battery. If you're looking to use your battery daily, especially in an off-grid scenario where you have to use your battery daily, or if you're in an area with a lot of power outages, so maybe your power goes out a couple times a month, I would lean more towards lithium batteries. They're designed to be used daily and cycle daily. So your cycle count is a lot higher than a lead acid battery. Lithium's come a long way and the price point has dropped tremendously, but lead acid is designed to be used in an outage type scenario, and they're a little bit more affordable.
So we live in West Virginia, and as anybody who lives in this area knows, there are times where we get like a lot of snow. And what happens if my batteries die during a snowstorm? What's going to happen?
Well, depending on the design, you could have a couple of different outcomes. The first outcome is if the batteries are depleted, you'll be without power.
Okay.
So that's the first outcome. The next one is, depending on the design of the system, you could actually have a generator as a backup to your backup. So for example, Mike's system in the background there, the Schneider system, actually has an AC input that we can input a generator into that system. So when the batteries get down to a certain voltage, which indicates capacity level, the generator will then fire up and recharge the batteries and continue to power the loads in the house.
So the generator charges the batteries, and the batteries still run the loads. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
So, like
Yes.
it's like an example of my house, like during a snowstorm. We know that at the winter solstice, the amount of available irradiation is limited because the sun angle is low and there's not as much sunshine during the day, and we usually get a lot of cloudy weather. So here at my house during the wintertime, I will use my generator. I have it set up to be a pull start generator, not automatic. Most of our customers prefer an automatic switch that turns the generator on when there's not enough sunshine to keep the batteries at a good level. I just chose to do it manually because I'm learning exactly how the system will work. I want to know exactly how often I need to turn the generator on and for what duration.
Okay.
And a standby generator will allow that system to operate without any manual input. So as Mike indicated, he was preparing for bedtime, so he turned on the generator, make sure the batteries would carry him through, so he didn't have to wake up. But there's a way that can happen fully automated as well.
Yeah, and most folks choose that, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can start with a small battery system and add a standby generator, or if you have a standby generator already on the property, we can tie that into the system. Now, the larger your battery bank, the less chance your generator will need to run. So we like to tell our customers, and it's all about your budget and what you feel comfortable with.
So I have a question. Is it worth going off grid?
So that's a highly personal question. And it depends on your setting. So there's two types of approaches there. You can have an off-grid cabin, and then it's a choice of, say it's an off-grid cabin, rural setting in the middle of the woods, not connected to anything, currently maybe running off a generator. Then it's a choice of, do I continue operating off my generator Do I pay for an electric line to be run to my home, which can be in the tens of thousands of dollars? Or do I install a solar plus battery plus generator situation? In that case, the solar plus battery plus generator situation can work perfectly and wonderfully when closely calculated and customized to your usage for an off-grid cabin. Unconnected to the grid, running off a rechargeable battery with the generator there as a backup to the backup. On a grid connected home, it can still make sense to prepare for off-grid. It can be an all at once. It can be a phased approach. Again, highly customized to your home. But with the uncertainty in the world, a lot of folks like to be prepared for the eventuality that it could be a situation of weeks, months longer with no power outage. Depending on where they are, their geography, there's a lot of variables there. But a lot of folks would like to have a plan in place, whether it's all at once or phased, for an eventuality where their home may not have power. And that's a kind of prepared to be off grid. If the power goes out, your home is ready to run for months or years off of a solar plus battery system that can include a generator. And typically we do recommend a generator in that situation. The most common approach is a hybrid solar plus battery system that's grid connected and just, ready for the hours, days, maybe weeks of power outage. So the most typical setting is a home that is configured and customized to have a solar plus battery, maybe a generator, so that you can run temporarily off grid until the power is restored. But if that preparation is key to you, your vision for your home, what you want to be ready for, then it may be time to look at a off-grid ready system. In addition, we can make recommendations on your usage side, which is incredibly important.
Yeah.
So that you can have a water heater that's battery compatible as much as possible. Water heating takes a ton of electricity, so carefulness and planning there matters. You can install a soft start on a heat pump if you're reliant on heat pump. Otherwise, fireplace inserts, wood stove, pellet stoves, or outdoor wood-fired furnaces can be a wonderful solution. And we can customize the situation to either be a whole house or a critical loads panel, so that you can choose to take your whole home and run that off of your solar plus battery plus possible generator, or the critical loads only.
All right. So what equipment do you use at MTV Solar?
Yeah, so we have a list of equipment that we like to use because of its reliability and its the technology is there and it's very safe. So it ultimately depends on the inverter system that you're using, but we like to use Deca is a battery make that's manufactured in Pennsylvania. They make lead acid batteries that we like to use. Then there's also Fortress, which is a lithium ion solution, and they're made in Pennsylvania as well. And then one of the more popular ones that we use is the Powerwall, which is very popular right now. Most people have heard of Tesla's Powerwall solution, and typically the Powerwall is a great way to retrofit an existing system with batteries because it's an AC coupled battery bank. And we'll dive into what that means in the next podcast when we get a little more technical on that front. But those are the three main batteries that we like to use. Did that answer your question?
Yes, I've heard a lot about Tesla, so it's good to hear.
Yeah. They're one of the more popular ways of taking a whole home approach to going with a whole home approach to backup power is the Tesla Powerwall.
Well, Stud, I'm glad you mentioned whole home. I know I get this a lot. What is the difference between, backing up your entire house in, let's say, a critical load scenario where you're just doing a couple of loads like Mike described with his current system?
Yeah, so usually it comes down to it's a budget constraint typically when it comes to powering your whole home or a critical load sub panel. Basically what you're doing is with a critical load sub panel, you're you're selecting a few of the most important things that you want powered during an outage and putting it into another sub panel, which is then energized during a power outage, where the rest of those loads will be de-energized. So very popular is, especially around here, are well pumps, because people want to have water during an outage. And then also refrigerators and freezers, forms of communication, some lights, and receptacles and things like that. Those are typically things that would go into a critical load sub panel. When we're talking about doing a whole home backup, that's when we really start looking at the efficiency of the loads that you want to power, as Danny was talking about earlier with, heat pumps and putting in soft start modules for those kinds of loads, because they not only require a lot of power to overall, they consume a lot of power, but they also require a lot of power just to start. Then there's a locked rotor amps, is what it's called, and we'll talk about that more in the next podcast as well. But those are typically the differences. You have a small select loads list that you want power during an outage, or your whole home. And
Okay.
the whole home solution is more expensive because you need more capacity on both battery and inverter.
Okay. So if I wanted to do my entire house, I would need a bigger battery system, which obviously will probably raise the cost. And if I just wanted to do a few select critical items for myself during an outage, I can do a critical load setup with a much smaller battery system that might be a little bit more cost effective. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep. And
Thank
then you can grow into the whole home solution over time if we design it properly from the start.
Yep. And one point to add, as kind of a midpoint there, is we have begun using lumens smart panels to back up part of your entire electric panel, part of your home, using a load management device that flips your breakers on and off based on what the battery can supply. So that if with a critical loads panel, the only drawback is if it's not on that sub panel, you can't power it. So if you think of a bedroom with some outlets that you want to power, but you left off when you installed your battery in that sub panel to your main panel, you can't deliver energy to that receptacle. With a lumen panel, you can flip on and off breakers automatically or over the internet through a website, so that you can manage your loads over time. So that's an interesting option that we are exploring, and can allow a partial home backup with a bit of flexibility.
That's good answer.
I was wondering what the lumen panels were. Yeah.
They're very cool.
They're the bridge gap between the bridge between a critical loads panel and a whole house solution. So if a customer really wants a whole house solution, but only can start with a small battery system, that lumen panel allows us to install the system as if we were doing a whole house solution, without creating a imbalance in the system, or the system to potentially fault out and cause errors down the road. That lumen panel helps mitigate those loads.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it also gives the homeowner the flexibility for like heating water on a nice, bright, sunny day, right? You don't want to heat water in the middle of the night on, right on your batteries, because that's just gonna kill them. Where if you have a nice, bright, sunny day like today and you're making a good amount of power, you want to take a hot shower, why not?
We have an on-demand hot water system, and I'm wondering if that can be on a critical loads.
Mike, you want to take that?
Oh, sure. The quick answer. Well, actually, I got a question back. What kind of on demand? Is it electric or gas?
Oh, it's gas.
Oh, okay. Then the answer is yes, it can. The electric on demand hot water uses way too much power to put it on a critical loads. But yes, with the gas system, we certainly can.
So what happens if somebody does have an electric? I mean, I don't, but what happens if somebody has an electric one? What can they do?
Yeah, as building contractors for 20 years, when on-demand hot water heaters first hit the American market. They've been used globally in developed countries since World War II, but not in our country. Another story on that one. But they're very, very efficient, and they don't have standby losses, and they're wonderful. That's why they're used all over the world. So the gas-powered units need a 15-amp circuit to power. It's for the small pump and for the fan and the running electronics. The electric on-demands for whole house require at a minimum 100 amps, usually 120 amps of dedicated service. What that means is usually you have to upgrade your whole house power system to a 400 amp service to get the on-demand electric. So what we knew as building contractors was it's a very difficult equation to put in, and we only saw people pick that equation when there was some need for it that was extreme and they did not have either propane or natural gas available. So they're really a small part of the market. But beyond the on-demand hot water heaters, we have another suggestion for a better way to heat water. And who wants to take that one?
So we were looking at water heater options. And what we found is, and it's based on our experience because Lithium actually has a heat pump water heater. One thing you may run into is that you need to vent the cool air. Sometimes you can, or it may be an issue in winter, so it can be vented outside, but they are super, super efficient. Now, they will be slightly more in cost, maybe even 3 times more in cost, but they will save you. Lydian, what did you say yours cost you a year?
It's like $100, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth it
very quickly, and it barely uses any energy. So that's what we highly recommend if you're going to look at battery backup, is to look at a heat pump water heater.
Yep. And then if your if your water heater is in the basement or a crawl space that's not conditioned space and it could be damp, the side benefit is that a heat pump hot water heater is a dehumidifier. It will directly reduce the humidity problems as a side benefit in that space, which is a side benefit that is big if you have that condition. So there's another plus for that. The efficiency of them are great, and we do recommend them for battery backups.
I feel like I've learned a lot about batteries, but I'm still curious as to how much a typical system is going to cost.
That's a great question, Kiki. The battery systems, as we know, are custom designed. So we talked about it on this podcast, like, well, it's so variable, maybe we shouldn't mention the price, but we decided that it's important that people get an idea of what the price range is. So what I'd like to do is say that last year we sold a lot of battery systems. I've got to get the count on that. But the average consumer spent about $20,000 on the battery system in addition to whatever they picked for solar. So they can pick a small, medium, or large solar array. They picked a $20,000 battery solution as their entire solution or as the first step, depending on their needs. And that's before the tax credits. So it's important to note that when the batteries are charged by the solar panels, they qualify for the tax credit, which means that the batteries get a 26% tax credit, and that's residentially. Commercially, they get a 26% tax credit, and they get 100% bonus depreciation on top of that. So that's really the best way to bracket it. You can spend less than that, and you can certainly spend more than that, depending on where you want. But that's the way people can gauge, well, okay, it's not going to cost $4,000, but it's not going to be $80,000 either. You can start at 20, and then you would be in the average demographic for our customers for last year.
So the best is to have someone come out and go over everything with me and figure out what's right for me.
Yep. Look at your plan and look at your budget, and then build a path to get there. And I really want to emphasize that it's not all at once. It's taken me 4 years to get this far, and I did that on purpose. I wanted to learn as I went and really get to understand the components, so I didn't oversize the system or make an error. So that's important.
Okay. Well, thank you, guys.
All right. Well, thank you. Wait, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, folks. I want to thank you all for watching. What we learned on the last podcast that we did is that it was extremely successful in the gauge of the number of people that watched it all the way through. We had thousands of people watch it. We didn't know. We just thought we'd try it and see what happened. What we now are learning is that people out there are hungry for information, it was purposely an informational session. We are here to give information, and we want to direct the next podcast based on what you're interested in hearing about next. So please get a hold of us and help us formulate the questions for our next podcast. We intend to do this every 2 weeks. If it gets super exciting, we'll increase that frequency. But there's so many things today we didn't cover. We had to say no to, but there's so much information out there. But we want to hear from you. What do you want to know next? And we will tailor our next podcast for that. So I want to thank you for watching, and please invite other people to watch this. We think it's a good place to learn from an experienced solar installer, especially with batteries. We've got the most experience in the Mid-Atlantic with solar and batteries. We did this because we grew up in West Virginia as a solar company where lots and lots of people lose power. I'd like to say we were geniuses and thought about the batteries 10 years ago. We were responding to you, the consumer. So please continue to hit us with good questions. Thanks for watching.